Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us here at the town of Bladensburg for our Domestic Awareness Month. I am Council Member Kalisha Dixon. I just want to say thank you to the viewers on YouTube, Facebook, and on cable TV. I also want to thank the Kaiser team that is led by Dr. Sabi. We want to thank you for coming, our Chief Collington from our police department, and our resident. Thank you again for coming out for this great event. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Sabi. Before I do that, I'm going to let Chief Collington introduce himself and say his greeting, and then turn it over to Dr. Sabi. Also, I want to acknowledge our Councilmember Brown, Councilmember Blunt in our midst, and also our Mayor in our absence, and Councilmember Blunt. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Chief Collington, I have the esteemed pleasure and honor to serve as the Chief of Police for the Bladensburg Police Department. I want to thank our council member, Kalisha Dixon, for putting this event together. This is something that is near and dear to my heart as a police officer, as a family member, as also as a spiritual person. So I am honored to be here to add to this panel of esteemed guests up here. So I'm looking forward to any questions that we have. And also I want to say welcome to our guests sitting in the audience and those watching live stream.
Thank you, Chief Collington. I'm going to ask Councilmember Brown just to come and say her greetings to our resident and our viewers and our guests. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dixon. I would like to just
Thank you, Councilmember Brown. At this time, I'm going to ask Councilmember McBride to just come and say greeting. Councilmember McBride is from Ward 2.
Good morning, everyone. Please forgive my dress. I was out and about. I truly have forgotten, so I apologize.
Good morning, everyone. I am so excited and humbled to be here. This is an amazingly important opportunity and topic for us to discuss. We've spent a lot of time this morning thanking people for showing up, and I would like to continue those thanks because showing up matters, and where you spend your time matters. And so I want to acknowledge, the people that we have in the room with us. I also want to acknowledge the people who are listening through live stream. You are spending your time with us, and we appreciate that and acknowledge that. And so I just wanted to once again really thank the mayor and the council, police chief. Thank you for being here. Councilwoman Dixon, Councilwoman Brown, Councilwoman McBride. showing up matters, and it really is noticed and appreciated, so thank you. And we've also had Delegate Diane Fennell and her family join us, so really, really appreciate that. We also have had a great team putting this together, and so I want to acknowledge Ray Jeffries for helping us put this together, as well as many other people who have really contributed to this moment and also are there to help us. And so, on the panel, you've had a chance to meet Police Chief Collington. Thank you for being here. We have Reverend Mylene Dormer, who's also here with us. I am Fazi Sabi. I am an OBGYN, a proud mom, a proud Navy veteran, a daughter, a sister. And so this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I have Dr. Yvonne Rowe and also Dr. Kayan McKenzie, who is here with me. Today, what we want to do is we'll talk a little bit about what domestic violence means and a little bit of information around this topic. We'll talk a little bit about signs. How do you know if you are in an abusive relationship? How do you know if a loved one is in an abusive relationship? And the key focus of our conversation today isn't about the statistics. It's about what do you do? What do you do to help a loved one? What can you do to help a friend or a family member who is having this, in these situations? I'm going to speak a little bit more loudly so you guys can hear me. Hang on. I'm getting a feedback. Is that okay? Hold on. Sorry, we're getting feedback, so I think it's better. Okay, how's that? Sorry, guys. Always have technical difficulties, so one moment so you don't get the feedback. Is that better? All right. Nope. How's that? We're getting... Okay. Thank you. Do we want to just turn this, close this, and then does he have the slides? You're fine. This is our momentary break, so hang tight. Okay. All right, how's that?
I think you should just go and just push it back where it was because it wasn't coming. Yeah, there.
How's this? Better? All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you. And that's good. So we have a moment to catch our breath. I really want to pause and just share with you guys. I think all of us on this panel, we've been thinking a lot about this topic. I've been nervous about talking about this topic because it is so important and it is so impactful. And as an OBGYN, as a friend, as a sister, I sit across people who are in these situations every single day. It is a very heavy topic for many of us. As we talk about this, you may feel just anger, frustration, sadness, a sense of hopelessness, And so what I really want to do, and the reason why we took the time out to really introduce the people who are here in this room, who are listening on the live stream, is to show the force of people that are in the community, standing by to help our loved ones, our sisters and our brothers who may be going through a situation. And so if you feel like this is too heavy, we have our amazing therapist from Kaiser Permanente here, Robin. There are many different resources in the community to reach out to. 988 if you feel like, you're having heavy, deep thoughts. If you need to take a moment to step away, it is okay, and we will still be here for you when you come back. And so I just wanted to start with that and acknowledge, like, if we really want to talk about this topic, it can be heavy. It is a very serious topic. And so I just wanted to give everyone that room to feel those emotions, take those emotions in, and actually give you permission to be angry and give you permission to be sad, because this is a very frustrating and heavy topic. I also wanted to talk a little bit. One moment.
I'm State Senator Malcolm Augustine. I'm really, really pleased that you are having this very, very important conversation here during this very, very important month, Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and the purple and the purple lights to bring awareness to this area of concern that is an area of concern across the world, particularly prevalent in the United States and very, very prevalent in our own community here in Prince George's County in particular, where we, and I know you all are the experts, and so you all will talk through that, but I just, am so keenly aware of this concern, and I want you to know that a lot of the work that I try to do from a legislative standpoint, I really have a concentration on behavioral health and mental health, and I find that at the root of a lot of the concerns and bad outcomes that we have in our society, a lot of them are rooted in these intergenerational behavioral health issues and concerns that we pass down certain, bad ways that we act on certain things. And I don't mean to take too much on this, but it just really is just so important. I apologize for the time of me getting here or not getting here. We just got a lot of events going on in this day today. But I do want to say this to it as well, just as my own personal side of story with this, is that, I'm a parent. I've got my two kids, my girls. They're now 20 and 18. And many of you have seen them grow up. And, they are just they're the center of my wife and I's life, without a doubt. They are literally the center. We are now empty nesters. So this is kind of like a new time for us. We're trying to figure this thing out right now, honestly and truly. So it's a little different. But we are at that place right now where we've gotten to there. But we're extremely proud of them. But what the story that I want to share with you all, though, as a young parent, my wife and I were trying to do everything we possibly could for our kids and do everything else for them. And it wasn't that I was spanked very often when I was a child, because I wasn't. It was infrequent. It would happen though, or whatever. It was just kind of like the thing. And then of course my grandmother, there was always the threat of having to go outside, get the switch, you know what I'm saying? And those kinds of things. the way that I was raised and the way that we sort of like were raised. And then as a so I kind of like, you do what you know. I mean, to a certain degree, you do what you know. And so then as a young parent with my daughters and stuff like that, it's not like we did it a lot or anything else like that, but we were not against like spanking and stuff like that. Until I saw my young daughter spanking her doll. And I was like, what am I doing right now? What are we doing as far as perpetuating the use of violence to address behavioral matters that surely we can figure out and work together and try to work to do things in a way that are not using violence as a means to whatever your end may be. And so that was the last time that we did that, because it's not necessary. There is no place for violence in any relationships or any kind of life, environments. And we just have, particularly in the African American community, like this sort of like that's what we do. Like, no, it's not what we need to stop. And we need to stop. We need to surely say that this is behavior that is not good behavior. It is not right. There's never an opportunity or a time when you should be doing it, nor should you be receiving it and accepting it and then, trading it down to generations. This is central for me to behavioral health work that I do at the state of Maryland, trying to create law that will break these cycles of intergenerational violence that make it such that we are not able to really live our full lives that we are destined to do, that we should be able to do, and we should not have these kinds of things. And so it's why, for me, it's just so important that you all are in this work, that you are working to break some of this, and know that I'm a partner with you in that. If you all have any concepts, ideas, or anything, we do have a cookout that's going on right now, so I'm going to have to go back to that. But the chief and the council member, they know how to reach me, and a lot of great legislation, a lot of great laws and stuff like that do come from those who are in the work. And so I'm a partner with you on that, and I just want to really, again, just uplift Kalisha for this fantastic, and Councilmember Trina Brown for uplifting this just extremely important topic. And let's just break it. Let's just try our very best to move us away from using violence in any form at all. This period. We just need to get away from it. So I just say thank you for giving me the opportunity to say a few words, and thank you all for the work. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Malcolm Augustine. Over back to you, Dr. Savvy. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for being here. Earlier we were saying showing up matters. And really being a part of this conversation is so important. And so I wanted to start it off by recognizing, we've called this thing a lot of different names. We traditionally have called it domestic violence. And when we, think about this, it was traditionally between, a husband and a wife. But we know that this is so much more than that. And so it's expanded to intimate partner violence. But it's not only limited to intimate partners. It can be interpersonal violence, intergenerational violence. And in no time, in no situation, is it appropriate or is it right? And one of the biggest things that we first need to tell ourselves and tell someone who is in the situation, if there's nothing else that we say and get through immediately, is it is not your fault, and you did not ask for this, and you do not deserve this. Everyone deserves to be in a safe relationship. Everyone needs to feel safe in their home, in their environment, and their community. And this is why we're all here. This is why we spend our time talking about this, because everyone deserves a safe relationship. We can talk a little bit about the statistics. I often think that statistics actually undercount the prevalence of a lot of things. And so some of the statistics, 1 in every 3 women is in a situation where she does not feel safe. 1 in 4 men. But I bet you the numbers are actually a lot higher because there's such a stigma associated with coming out and the vulnerability of recognizing and sharing and acknowledging that you are in an unsafe relationship. It is a very hard step to admit it first to yourself and then to someone else and then ask for help. I want to pause a minute and then just bring in the people on our panel to share a little bit about what this topic means to them. And then we're going to go and really get to the heart of this discussion of what do you do? What do you do? Like now that we get out, like what does this mean to us? We want everyone listening to this conversation to have some tools and resources to say, great, we know what this is now. What are we going to do about it? So I'm just going to start with Chief, and we're just going to go around and just talk a little bit about what does this topic mean, and maybe share some stories or why you even chose to be here today.
Thank you, Dr. Zip. So what it means to me to be here today is seeing this from a law enforcement set of lenses. And what that means is this is, in law enforcement, one of the most delicate and most dangerous calls that officers respond to. Because remember, when we go out, when we receive the call, we have to go out and sometimes have to remove people from the residence, whether it's the breadwinner, whether it's a child, whether it's the wife. But the law mandates that we take certain action when we go out there. I.e., if we see bruises, marks, weapons, and things like that, our hands are tied pretty much. But what does that mean for those that are left behind? What does that mean for the children, right, that were hiding in the bedroom, hiding in the closet, that has to get up the next morning to go to school and try to function normally like the other kids? So that's why I said earlier that this is something that is near and dear to me as a police chief, but as a police officer, but more importantly as a human being. I've been in law enforcement 30 years, and I've seen, these types of calls so many times, too many times to be honest, that, we want to get to the root cause of if it's mental health, is it, finances, emotional, whatever it is, just trying to reach out and find that resource that we could eradicate domestic violence and abuse in our communities. So that's why I'm glad to be here, Doctor. I'm glad to be on this panel because I think this is where we have the real talk. This is where the rubber meets the road, when we all get involved and we bring all these esteemed guests with all this experience and knowledge and resources so that we can share it with our community, keep our community safer.
Good morning, afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here. This is really a near and dear topic to me and all of us here on this panel, and for you in the room. We did have, as a spiritual leader and also as a nurse, as my profession, I've seen the turmoil and all the things that these implications the violence has on people's lives. And so in this year, on a spiritual platform on the church, we had a domestic violence meeting, and we were all on the platform, and we're all amazed at the response that we got from the people in a spiritual environment who were going through so many things that didn't know how to be addressed, didn't know how to deal with it. It's just cover up, and people suffer in silence. And when we look at the response, we were like, we have to do this to bring awareness to this problem that is silently eating away at people and emotionally devastating. So it is something that needs to be talked about. It is something that needs to be addressed, and we can't cover it down over with whatever it is that we put over it. It has to be dealt with from underneath, and then that's how the healing will take place. So awareness is important, because when we know what it is, we know what to do, how to address it, where to go for help. Those are important pieces to it.
Good morning, everyone. As everyone already shared, domestic violence, family violence, very important topic, very dear to me. I want to say everyone really required to be in a safe space at all time, and everyone should be safe and feel safe. For me, as a nurse, this topic is really dear to me because I personally lost my best friend from domestic violence. At 21 years old, in the prime of my friend's life, she was gunned down by her boyfriend, who she trusted and loved. So for me, losing a best friend and a sister, this topic for me, very important. And I'm so glad that we're in the room on live stream audience and listening to this topic, which we can help someone, save someone's life. And it's okay to just let that person express how they're feeling and just be that listening ears and share the numbers that we're going to share with you. There's so many different information that we have placed in here for those who are in the room, and we can place those online, that we want you to just use these resources, because you never know who may be going through something. You may see someone and they look normal. They may just appear normal and be happy and not saying anything, but they could be suffering in silence. So let us be here to help one another. Thank you.
Wow. Good morning, everyone that's here, those that are online. What is important for me to share about this topic? I want to first acknowledge Dr. Sabi and the team that's here, Kalisha, and each and every one that is here today to support. I chose to be a part of this panel and to share about domestic violence because it's everyone's business. As Dr. Sabi mentioned, we're not going to talk about statistics, but if we should be very true to ourselves, we know someone that have somehow experienced domestic violence. In my role as a professional, in a provider role, and also as a spiritual person, I've had the opportunity many times to have individuals just showing up, wanting a place to speak, and oftentimes just giving that permission, that what matters to you. And that's what whole health is about. It's not just showing up and coming to healthcare for a prescription or to be seen by a provider, but having that time to say what matters. And sometimes in that question, what matters to you is what matters to us, is when these topics will come forth. And sometimes what I find is people are not comfortable sharing because of stigma, other reasons that might put others in other jeopardy. Maybe perhaps you're afraid to share because it's a parent, it's an elderly abuse. It comes in different form, in texting, and different things that it displays itself. And I think we need to bring more awareness, because when individuals are aware, they can know, okay, this is not right. I've seen instances where people will be in these situations and thinking it's okay because it's what they've seen around them, as our senator shared. It's what we've seen culturally. And not because we've seen something or we do something doesn't make it right. And so today we're here to bring awareness, whether if you're here in person or online, to say it's safe to share. This is a safe space. Each person belongs. And we want the community to know that there's always someone. And if you're afraid of speaking to someone or don't want to dial a phone, we have our chief police officer show up to a precinct. Every precinct will have someone that is trained to deal with domestic violence. So thank you for having us. We look forward to a discussion and from hearing from you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. And, you know, you can see the passion that comes through. Every one of us has had someone close to us, a friend, a family member. For me, you know, as an OBGYN, my patients who are struggling with this every single day. So now let's talk about, well, what can we do? We know it's happening. What can we do? Immediately when you think about a violent act occurring, you immediately think about calling 911. And there are certain situations when that is absolutely appropriate. But sometimes it's a little bit more subtle. Sometimes, you know, as has been mentioned, it's not an easy thing to put your finger on. And a lot of times, you know, when the police show up, they can't necessarily intervene, especially when the person who is in that situation does not feel safe to come forward. And so, yes, if you see someone being abused, if you see someone being hurt, absolutely call 911. But also recognize that sometimes it's a lot more subtle. And the person in that relationship, the person that being abused, will not come forward. And so then what do you do? Because it's not like, okay, well, you know, I can't call the police, so we're done. No, that's when the friendship, that's when the love really begins. And that's where you start to arm yourselves with the things that you can do to help that person. And so many times when you go to these types of events, you get these little like flyers and handouts and they're like, oh, that's nice. And it ends up in the trunk of your car or it ends up, you know, on the floor somewhere. But I wanted to share some of the information on this handout that we have, and it will also be available for those who are joining through the live stream on the Bladensburg site, so you have access to this. We have a checklist of things to look out for. We also have resources. Every single community has invested in resources to help. You just have to know where to call. And so we want to make sure that we give you access to what those resources are, but also the checklist that you can look through. And so, you know, again, if you're immediately seeing an assault, yes, call 911. But what if you can't put your finger on it? One of the really important things is don't downplay the danger. Don't downplay the danger to the person. Don't downplay the danger to the person, to you who may be trying to help someone that you love. There is danger, and it is important to use that word. Also make sure that you listen and believe. It takes a lot of courage to step forward and admit that you are in a dangerous relationship. And so believe, and sometimes just listen. Don't judge. You know, sometimes you can say, I knew that person was a bad relationship. I told you not to go into that relationship, right? But love is messy. Love is hard. And so even though you told them, put that aside and love them and be there for them. Don't judge, because it can happen to any one of us. And, you know, it can be very subtle. Sometimes you don't even realize you're in that relationship until you open your eyes and you're like, wow, that really makes me feel bad. Give emotional support and recognize it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be sad. But we're here to support each other. Showing up matters. Sometimes it's the little things. It's the intangible things. If someone is having a hard time, maybe just being available to provide childcare Maybe it's giving that person a ride or transportation, giving them a safe place to just be. Those are things that are in our power that we can do, and they're tangible and they're actionable. Make sure that you recognize that safety is important, and we're going to talk a little bit about what does safety mean, what is safety planning, and have that checklist available to talk through that. And then, they're online, you can Google, you can look up, resources. They're not hard to find. You just have to look for it. Every community has excellent resources. Just arm yourself with that knowledge. I'm going to pause right there and see if anyone on the panel wants to share anything before we go through just some warning signs and the safety plan.
And as Dr. Sabi already shared, just be prepared to go. So have that to-go bag. And you could be the safe keeper for that person to-go bag.
And I'll just add real quick, it's important for everyone to know that it's never your fault, so we don't want anyone suffering any form or fashion of domestic violence to feel it's your fault, so we don't want you blame yourself. And always remember, you're not in this alone, right? There's always somebody that you can talk to.
I would say don't be afraid to share your story, because someone might be able to get you help. And someone might know someone that's going through that can relate to you in a more intimate way where you can feel as though you're going to be heard. So don't be afraid to share your story, because in that story you can help others while helping yourself. And know that there's more with you than against you. You matter. So whatever situation, I would say to that person, you matter. And we want you to know that you matter. And whatever that takes, never lose that hope that you matter.
I would say that find a trusted person, even just one. I know sometimes it's difficult to trust people, and that's why people don't express themselves at times. But if you have that one trusted person who is a good resource that will get you the help that you need, or will steer you in the right direction of getting the help that you need, don't keep it to yourself. It's a silent killer. So get that one person that you can relate to and talk to, who can help you in the situation that you're in.
So how do you know? How do you know if you are in one of these relationships? Or how do you know if one of your friends, loved ones, is in one of these relationships? Again, it can be subtle. And so here are some questions to ask. Has anyone hit, shoved, slapped, kicked, punched, or choked you? Those are the ones that we commonly go to when we think about this topic. Has anyone threatened to hurt or kill you? More subtle. Has anyone called you names, put you down, or told you that you're crazy? Has anyone criticized the things that you do, how you look? Has anyone hurt your pets or destroyed things that were important to you? It may not be anything directed directly at you, but it could be those things that matter to you. Has anyone blamed you that you are the cause for that abuse, or that you are making them do that to you? Is someone controlling you, limiting where you go, what you can do, and whom you talk to? One of the most egregious ways that people can get isolated is this constant coercion and force of power, where over time it could be someone who is from a loving family, And the first step is to break those links between that loving family. So the person who is, in this situation becomes more and more isolated, and their resources, their support systems are broken one by one by one. Is someone unexpectedly checking up on you at work, at home, at school? Are they following you? This could be stalker behavior, but when you think about a stalker, you think about a stranger. This could be a family member. Is someone forcing you to have sex against your will, or any other acts? Is someone making you apologize for the way that they are treating you? There's so many different variations of this, and it can be very subtle, and so it's important just to listen and be aware. Let me pause and see if anyone on the panel wants to share anything before we go to the action plan.
I'll just say, sometimes people think, well, if it happened once, that wasn't abuse. There's no frequency in abuse. If it happened once, it's one time too many. And we need to recognize that. That could be leading to something further down the road. So there's no frequency in the amount of times domestic violence happens.
And I just want to share that culturally, we may say it's okay, but it's not okay. So you may have grown up in a culture that's acceptable, but it's okay to be vulnerable and share what you're going through. It's not okay to be abused.
And to piggyback from that, culturally, we might have to unlearn some things to relearn what it is the signs are. And so that's something I just wanted to point out.
What I would like to point out is that sometimes people are really in denial. That's a big one. It's not happening, and we try to kind of make all the excuses for the behavior instead of accepting that it is not right. And we shouldn't have to be accepting that or dealing with it. It's not the norm. You deserve better. So you give yourself that, and you tell yourself, no, I'm worth more than this. I'm worth more than this, and don't accept it. Thank you.
Thank you. So now to the plan, because we all want to take action, and we deserve to take action. And so Dr. Rowe mentioned this, Chief mentioned this, have a plan. And so part of that safety plan is, one, just thinking about what are the things that you need for your safety, and many times there are children involved, for your children's safety. And so Dr. Rowe mentioned this, the bag. What do you do with the bag? What goes in the bag? And so it could be many different ways. But part of it is there are certain things that you need in order to be able to walk away and be able to completely sever those ties. And so many times, when we talk about the bag, we also say leave it with someone else. Don't leave it at home, because you may have to leave very, very quickly from your house. And so knowing that these important things are somewhere else and they're safe and you can get to them is an important part of this. One of the biggest things is in undocumented people, like they sometimes will have their papers held hostage by the abuser. Mm-hmm. And so as much as you can, find your documents, find whatever you can, and put it away. And so financially, the other big part of this is a lot of people financially feel like they cannot get away. But there are resources in the community that can help with the finances. But let's talk about some of the things that go in the bag. So birth certificate, social security cards, driver's licenses, any type of marriage or divorce or custody papers, any legal protection or restraining orders, health insurance cards, immunization records, especially for your kids, car titles, registration, cash as much as, you can put aside just so you can be able to get that bus ride. You can get whatever you need to get away from that situation. Prepaid cell phone, because what if your cell phone's taken away? What if your cell phone coverage is terminated when you make that brave act of leaving? Medications, prescriptions, clothing, something that you will have that you can wear, especially if you're leaving with children. Some of their keepsakes, some of their toys, something that reminds them of the safe place at home. Spare set of keys, and an important thing is a paper list of important phone numbers, because if you can't take your phone, if your phone was shut off, you just need to have those phone numbers with you. So let me pause there. I know, everyone has different things in their toolkit, but anything that you would recommend for people, or how to put this bag in a safe place?
So I just want to piggyback off what you said, Dr. Sebi. When you talk about gathering documents, I made a note here that I was going to bring up later, but when you're making these bags up, try to make as many duplicate copies of your important documents that you can. So, and I would also say, make sure the people that you're leaving your documents with are people that you really trust, because you don't want to have your identity stolen when you're trying to, think forward and use precautionary measures by putting that safe bag, that go bag. You want to make sure that you leave it with somebody that you truly, truly trust. Thank you.
I'm going to be deterred in a different direction. I'm thinking broadly for the community, because I know that there are a lot of people who may not be documented, with their legal papers. So I just don't want you to be afraid to come forward because of your status. It's okay to still come forward even if you're not documented in the community. If you're going through abuse, please feel free to come forward and still pack whatever you can pack in your bag.
So, as you're taking that courageous step to protect yourself, what are the things that you need to prepare before you leave? Again, talk to someone you trust. And I think, the identity theft, like that is, and I hadn't really even thought about that, but oh my gosh, that is such an important part of this, because if you're in that desperate situation and you're just looking and grasping for help, but you give all of your papers to someone, that's huge. And thank you for bringing that up, because that's the last thing you need, right? But find, the person that you trust, or the people, and have your things stored safely. Have a number to one of the community resources, whether it's from these pamphlets, from any other pamphlets. Just have that phone number. Have your go bag. If you have a car, if you have access to a car, always keep your car full of gas so you can go when you need to go. Have a plan. And also, if you have loved ones, if you have children, teach them how to call 911. A lot of times when kids are watching this happen, or this is happening to them, they feel very hopeless and helpless. But what we can do is we can actually give them hope by making them a part of the plan, so they have a little bit of control in the situation, and they have something that they can do to help protect themselves and the ones that they love. And then after you leave, there is an after. Change your phone number, change your locks, change if you have a shared portal with your doctor's appointments. Sometimes, you'll show up for a doctor's appointment, and so will your abuser. And so change your appointment times, change where you normally go, so that way you're safe. And then just create a different routine for your daily life, so that way it's harder to find you and you can protect yourself. So I'm going to pause there again and turn it over to our panel. Dr. McKenzie.
Yes, I would say also could create an email address where you can upload some of those documents. So in an event that you have to go, you can retrieve those documents. Also, create a passcode or password with people that you trust. For example, if you're in a situation and the abuser is right there, you can say that password that's only between you and that trusted person. And they will know that to call for help because help is needed. So I would think everyone, that's something that I practice in my family with my kids, especially now in school, and so many things are going on. If there is an emergency and you need help, and you are not able to say what that is, you use that word, mommy and daddy will be there. And I think that professional part coming out, and also my husband being a police officer, we see so many things that happen. So I want to encourage you, if you're online, that trusted person, create some type of code that only you and that person know, that if this is happening, call for help. Because you might not be able to get to 911. If you have your phone, you have to text that code, or you have to, and don't have it be suspicious. Don't put something like, that the abuser or the person that's there is going to be able to pick it up. It should be something that's only known to you and that trusted person. And again, that email address where documents. Now, in our age of really computer and technology, that's a great way to retrieve documents at a fingertip.
Well, we know that this is a really heavy, heavy topic. Showing up today, whether in person, virtually, we thank you, because this is a commitment of your time, and it shows that we care and we're here for one another. And so we're going to close the session, but I just wanted to give our panelists another opportunity if there's anything else that they want to share, and then just leave a few minutes for any questions from the audience, or if any questions have come in through the live stream, we want to make sure that we address those. But we also know we want to be respectful of your time, and we know sometimes just constantly hearing about this is overwhelming. And so we want to give that space to then also take a moment, take that breath, and feel safe. So I'm going to turn it over to the panelists. I don't know if you have any other last minute things that we haven't touched upon so far. And then I'm also going to check in to see if there are any questions on live stream. And then we'll check with the audience to see if there are any questions with the audience.
Just wanted to wrap up this session by saying you have the right to be safe. And domestic violence, intimate partner violence, family violence, child abuse, it is illegal. And you can be prosecuted. So please, it's against the law. Please do not be afraid to report it. If you see it, report it. Thank you.
I echo this. I echo what you just said, Dr. Rowe. You don't have to stay in these relationships. You don't have to stay in an unsafe environment. Safety is your number one priority, and safety begins with you. So keep that in mind. Thank you.
And I would just say, you find yourself in an unfortunate situation. Number one, get out of the situation. But once you get out of this situation, don't internalize and keep this locked inside, because this is sort of like PTSD as well, right? You need to get the help that you deserve. So that's why these resources exist. That's why we are here, the police department, all of our officers here in Bladensburg definitely have gone through the crisis intervention training. So we're here. So we can be the initial, and then we can get you to the professionals once you feel comfortable enough coming forward and speaking with the police about it. But get yourself some help. Don't internalize it. And also talk to your children, especially if they witness what you just, the abuse that's going on in the home. Know that this affects the children as well. So talk to your children and try to get them the help that they need as well. Thank you.
This one is for you, Chief. There's a question that came in. For the undocumented, as you share, can we speak to those undocumented that needs help, but they're afraid if they show up for help because of their immigration status, they will be turned over to be deported? Can we speak to those, for those that are suffering in that silence?
That's a great question and a great concern. But listen, we want to make it abundantly clear that the police, when you call us, we do not care about your status. We do not care about you know, if you are a citizen or not. We don't care about that. We are there to help you. So please, please, please call us. Don't endure the abuse at home because you're afraid that if you contact the police, that we'll check your immigration status. That is the last thing that that's not even part of the questions that we would ask. None of our officers will be asking what your citizenship is. So please call us. We are here to help you. So thank you.
We have a question from the audience, please.
I have a question. We have a nonprofit, and we receive calls regarding domestic violence. It seems to be a trend wherein the females are beating the males, and the males don't know how to handle it. And if the police show up, they assume just the opposite. So once the females start crying, the officers seem to think that it's the male that has initiated the violence, and some have even had to go to domestic violence courts. So we personally are telling the guys, run. If this happens, just run. You know, you have a very little defense. But we're trying to figure out if you have any other suggestions, we'll share those as well.
So if I can answer that. So I would say that, you know, we do know men can be victims of domestic violence. So we don't go to these calls subjectively. We go objectively. So we want to make sure that we do our due diligence and talk to both parties. That's why domestic violence calls are a two-person call. So we would separate the parties, and one is talking, and then the officers speak as well to each other. So we don't want to make anyone feel less likely to come. We know in these calls that only 20% of men will come forward, but we know that, as Dr. alluded earlier, those numbers are much higher. And we want to encourage them so we won't go there and prejudge them that they are the abusers. Yes.
Telling them to run, just leave the situation entirely. And some of them have said when they call, they don't know what to do, but they want to be with their children and, you know, so forth and so on. But thank you for that answer.
I just want to give another suggestion too. I think you should encourage them to report the situation to the police, even if the abuse not occurring at that moment, but just still report it, that there are records, tracing records showing that this person being abused.
We have another question from the audience, please.
Yeah, I think the chief has appropriately addressed a very significant aspect of this abuse that is relevant to people that are not from here, that came here with cultural influences, whereby the chief said, if it's happening to you and you are concerned about your immigration status and you believe that this is something that might be a cultural issue for you, you should feel free to also be encouraged to report it, because you are protected, because the chief or the police will not address the issue of your status. Because some people believe that this is something cultural. and they subject themselves to this abuse for a long time, and they could not report it. The other issue that I think might need to be addressed will be the digital aspect of abuse. And the digital aspect of abuse is also very relevant in this matter. And there is also the issue of bombing, which is also something that is relevant to the intimate partner abuse issue. So that also might be something that could be addressed more significantly and elaborated on. Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing that up because, a lot of times it's through those text messages that you then have that protection because you're behind a screen and you send whatever. And sometimes that abuse can be between friends, between roommates, between classmates. And so that bullying, that texting, that is also abuse, and it is not okay, and people should not be subjected to that. So thank you for bringing that up. Councilwoman.
Thank you. Maybe you all can expound a little bit more on this because the domestic abuse of violence can also be mental. When someone's mentally abused, so it's not always hands-on physical. It can be mental. Yeah, and I know from that firsthand. So thanks. Mm-hmm.
So I'll start it off, and then you guys pick it up. So yeah, you're 100% correct. The abuse can be the breadwinner of the house. It could be someone that has he holds all the money for the house. So you're gonna do what I say, when I say, and how I say it. So that's abuse, right? That affects the mental. The other part of that is someone that constantly wants to break down your self-esteem, right? That can affect the mental. So we do have resources, and I'll let the panel address that, but it's in your pamphlet that we will be putting online. But this goes, you're right, Councilman Brown, it covers more than just physical. It's the mental, and sometimes the mental can be worse than the physical. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I think, come on up, that emotional, mental abuse can go very deep, and that's hard to show. And when you're in that and you're constantly hearing that you are not good enough, that this is your fault, you are making me do this to you, that goes very deep, and it's hard to come out of and to ask for help. And so that's where, we started off with listen, watch, listen to those words that your loved one is saying. Has their demeanor changed? Do you see that they're becoming more and more isolated? So part of this is that social isolation, taking away all of those resources. And so if you see that happening to someone you care about, pay more attention to them, be available, be ready, and listen, because it can be very subtle and it can happen slowly over time. And so you need to be there to help each other. So thank you for bringing that up. Please.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this discussion today. Mine was like a two-part question. My first question would be, what are the resources for those of us trying to help? And the person, you'd be like, I'll call this person, I'll call that person for you, but they're scared or they don't want the help, because that takes an emotional toll on us too, worrying about them and the kids. And then also the safety of those trying to help, because they know, oh, you're going to run to her, you're going to run to him. And then we got to be on the lookout when we leaving out our doors. So we have a lot of resources for the victims, but those of us trying to help as well.
Well, I would just strongly suggest that, you can remain, we always tell people you can remain anonymous in everything you do when you're reporting information. you can remain anonymous. But we want to encourage everyone, if you feel that this is affecting you as well, like you've been approached by the abuser, then you can get a peace order as well against that person. Because if they show up at your door, I know that she's in here or he's in here, and they're banging on your door, you call the police. And then we're going to help you get a peace order as well. But now for the mental part of it, you could need some therapy as well, because the person, the victim, survivor is what I want to say, not the victim. I want to say the survivor may offload some heavy information on you that takes a toll on your emotional. So you need some counseling as well. And there are resources here as well for the person that's the support team.
Opportunity. Thank you for having me for this opportunity. There is a new mental health shelter in Bowie. We learned about this Monday at the state's attorney's office. It's only 15 beds, but it can help. And also the 988 number is the number to call regarding mental health. We, as of last Tuesday, had a senior citizen, 66 years of age, who was just devastated because the abuser left her. So she's hallucinating, threatening suicide, and we had the opportunity to use the 988 number. I don't have the information with me regarding the shelter in Bowie, but I'll be happy to share it with anyone, or you can call Miss Giovanni Taylor at the state's attorney's office, and then she can give you the information as well. But there are a lot of people going through the domestic violence who are becoming mentally ill after, and they're not getting the services and assistance that they need. Okay?
You know, I think a lot of times, appropriately so, we focus on the person who is in that relationship. But it's also their loved ones who are pulled into that cycle of violence and cycle of abuse. And in fact, you are being abused because of that relationship. That abuse extends to you. And so the same way that every time you fly, and they say when that oxygen mask comes down, you first put that oxygen mask on yourself, because if you are not safe, if you are not comfortable, you will not be able to protect yourself. And then you protect the one that you love. But all of the things that we said apply to everyone who's also trying to help.
While we're waiting for the next question, I just wanted to add, where the mental health, that's your wealth, really. And it's practicing also giving yourself an opportunity of self-compassion and self-love. You're going through that situation, but it's not you. You have to remember who you are, and also zoning into what you're feeling, owning your feeling, the guilt and the shame and all of those, but don't let it become you. As you go for help, just know that you're seen as that entire all health, your mind, we're mind, body, spirit, and soul. So seeking help, and as the young lady before that came up, what do we do for those that report it? Because there's also support that's needed. And sometimes the person that is in that situation, they're out of it physically, but they're still captive in their mind. And so where psychotherapists and psychotherapy will come in, where we have experts that are trained to take care of these other issues after the fact.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Malachi, but I live in Jamaica. I'm 17, but this has brought it has brought a lot of memories back to me. I would say that I've been through verbal abuse, emotional abuse, mental and physical abuse. I live with both of my parents, my mom and dad. They're married. But I don't want to share too much because my mom is right there and I don't want to get a little emotional because it's a lot. But I would say the abuse come more from my father and at school. I've been getting bullied from school, from basic school, because we live in Jamaica, so we call it basic school, right back up to high school. On the road, I'm walking and you're hearing names. Even my dad said the name, and get punched in my eye in my home for no reason at all. It's just been a lot. I've been getting put down, and I would say that I've also, I can't call the word, but I lock away myself. I don't socialize with people because I'm scared of what they would say. So when I'm going on the road and even at church, I feel a little bit better because I don't want to stay at home. Because I'm scared to hear what I'm gonna, because I don't want to get abused mentally and physically by that person. So I try to lock away myself or move away. But now I'm trying my best to not let it get to me. But now I'm just applying to something so I can just be away from it because I can't, it's too much. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for sharing your story. You're brave. And you're going to do great things. Your story is just the beginning of great things. So sometimes you may go through stuff which is not okay, but it may be preparing you to share your story that you can help someone else. So in the pamphlet that's on the table, there are information that's there if you're seeking help, especially geared to teenagers, that you can text someone, you can talk to someone, and we do have a lot of mental health service which are available. And mental health, I grew up in Jamaica, it's a stigma, but mental health is real. Because when people emotionally put you down, make you feel less than who you are, then you start to believe in that who you are. But that's not what I see. I see a brave, brave person who stood up and say that they want to get away from their situation and they want to do great things. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you.
I just want to say, just piggyback from Dr. O, thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you. We hear you. You're valued and you're going to break that cycle. I see your mom emotional. Thank you. It is not easy to tell your story, and we can feel the pain, but out of that pain, we want you to, after this event, would love to talk with you and know that you're not alone.
We have an event on the 19th of October at Elizabeth Seton High School. It is an intergenerational exchange of conversations between senior citizens and young people. The young people can come out and talk about anything they want to. Employment, mama didn't love me, daddy didn't care. Graduate from high school, it is free. Our keynote speaker is Senator Malcolm Augustine. That was here, and he has helped so many seniors, so many young people, so many returning citizens that are not even in PG County. But this is our annual Senior Citizen and Youth Conference. And anyone is welcome to come because we're just getting so many calls from young people who feel no one is listening. Thank you, yes. Thank you, thank you. Appreciate it.
I do echo the same thing that everyone is saying. Thank you so much for sharing your story today. You are braver than brave, I would say. Very courageous to stand and to speak about how you feel about the emotional and verbal abuse, because that's what it's called. And I think culturally, we are raised to think that that is okay, believe it or not. It's normal. It's the norm. And so you find that the people before you did it, the people before them did it, the people before them did it, but it's not okay. And so I'm glad that you stood up today and spoke about that. And as you speak out, that's the first part of your healing. And I see you just doing great things. It looks rough now, but you will get through this phase, and you will believe in yourself, and you will do everything on this earth that God has created you to do. God bless you. Thank you for sharing with us today.
And I'm sorry. Somebody said, you want- Well, I echo everything that was said up here. One, the bullying. Are you still in school, or you out of school now? So never carry these burdens alone, right? Don't carry these things with you. But what I do want to say, I want to echo what everyone said. That showed a lot of bravery, a lot of courage for you to get up and share that. And I'm reminded of Mariah Carey says, "There's a hero that lies in you." And today you're a hero.
Thank you. Just want to go back, kind of piggyback from the same conversation, especially when it's close to home and the vulnerability that you share when it's a parent. I want us to speak to that abuser that might be listening online, might be willing to go for help. Because as we have touched on the topic where some might have been cultural, it might have been past, this behavior was learned. How can we speak to that abuser that is willing to get help without also being stigmatized, wanting to know that we care to help as well, so we can help to break that cycle?
So I just, it takes courage. It takes courage to say, I have a loved one who is going through this, but it's affecting me, and how do I protect myself? There, as I listen to your story, right, there's that you want to run, right? You want to run. You want to run so bad. Yeah. But if you run, what about my mom? What about the person who I leave behind? And so arm yourself with power, with knowledge, and protect your mom and figure out how to get her out of that situation, and your siblings. It is, you have the power within you. And the key is, people will try to make you feel powerless. And we're all here to say, as the friend, as the loved one, you have power. As, the person going through it, watching your family go through it, you have so much potential and power. Let us help you. And there's so many people in the community that are ready to help, and you do not need to go through this alone. I just wanted to check in with Robin to see if there's anything that you wanted to add from a mental health perspective. I know I'm putting you on the spot. And do you want to come up to the, so we just really are appreciative that Robin is here with us.
I've been seeing everybody, pressing this button. Thank you all for having me here. But no, you all have done a great job. Come on over to psychotherapy. But I'm so proud of you. I usually don't get too emotional, but you are so brave. You are so strong. And I can tell that mom supports you. And after this, if you all would like to talk to me, privately, or anybody, I'm definitely here. But creating safe spaces is important. Having, like what the panel said, a trusted person that you can go to is so important, because there is somebody that cares about you, even if it's one person that you can identify. Definitely your self-care is important, because you do matter. What the gentleman said too about digital, now that is real. Love bombing is real. Gaslighting is real. So people that will tell you that you're not good enough, but in the same breath be, but I love you. You know, I'm saying this because I love you, because nobody else cares about you, and you start to believe that. You know, so definitely it can affect your self-esteem. Your mental is your everything. I like to say a peace of mind is the best mind to have. It really identifies you to be able to effectively communicate and share what it is, what you need, what you deserve, what you require is so key. It is so important, excuse me. Therapy is key. There is a stigma. A lot of us are, you know, minority in here and within our culture, whether we grew up in another country or whether we grew up here in the United States. What goes on in our household stays in our household. That's always been the stigma. Like, we don't talk to somebody. I love being a therapist. Let me tell you, I love seeing everybody for therapy, but I definitely love seeing minorities come, because that is the stigma, and it's relatable, of where it's like, it feels so good to be heard. Therapy is non-judgmental, because there's such a stigma, like, I'm not telling her or him about my business, you know, but once you start to talk about it, I can see people feeling good about it because they're feeling heard. I'm actively listening, but I'm also being able to provide tools. I heard a lot of that. After you leave here, you know, to put tools in your tool bag of what you need. So if you've never been to therapy, I encourage everybody. Therapy isn't forever, but it's there for when you need it. And representation matters. Find you a therapist that looks like you. That is, you know, that looks like you, that's relatable. I mean, there's good mental health professionals everywhere, but that's going to help you to kind of buy into it. Because someone like me, I'm here to support you. I work for you until you fire me. That's what I say, until you no longer need me. You know, I've built a lot of good relationships. I work for Kaiser. So if any of you all have Kaiser, seek me out, you know, if you're interested. But it really feels, and I've been to therapy. Let me just disclose that. Like, I've been to therapy. When I was a new young mom, I just had a situation with my child's father. It was an adjustment for both of us. And he even bought into it as a guy, you know, to be like, hey, this feels good to talk it through. I see a lot of men that come to therapy. You know, it's always like, I have to be so big, so, you know, emotional. I can't be emotional, you know, but they feel good in saying this. And there is, you know, when we talk about domestic violence too, I do see males that are victim of domestic violence, because there are low numbers and they feel bad to be like, gosh, my partner, my spouse, I've gone through this. And I see the adults that have experienced domestic violence in their family and seeing their mothers be abused, and it leads to that trauma, that intergenerational trauma what the panel has shared. Trauma is real. Some form, way, or another, somehow we somewhat kind of maybe all experienced it and had a form of PTSD or something that's triggering. I'm going to be quiet now. Just come to therapy. Therapy is dope, okay? Thank you.
I just would like to say that our mental health is very important. Whatever you have to do to protect that, you should do that. If it means you have to disconnect from toxicity or people who make you feel bad about yourself and put you down, then do that, because you're your number one priority. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Susan. I'm a mother of 4 and a grandmother of 6. I'm also married for 5 years, but I've been through a lot, and in physical, emotional, suicidal, and I think it passed down to my kids. I've been homeless for 2 years, which nobody did not know I was, because I was ashamed, so I keep it unto myself until I go through what I have to go through. But now I see my daughter going through like the similar situation to me, and as a mother, I'm trying to help her, but I feel like I don't have the source, because just try to deal with it for myself, but for her, I see where it don't for me, it would be easier, but for her, I don't know if I'm giving her the right structure to do it or how she must deal with it, but I try my best to make her feel like she can do anything she want to do, anything I should say, put their mind. But they almost, because I'm a single mother, so everything that they go through, they put it, mommy first, mommy first, mommy first. And I grow them where they can talk to people, but because I don't have luck with friends, I don't have luck with people to say I'm going to talk to somebody and don't hear about it or don't get put down that I'm not a good mother, I'm worthless or anything like that. So I try to grow them up where they come to me, where I won't put them down. I will more try my best to uplift them, but they will look to me instead I look to go therapy or look to go to anyone else. I just started therapy. I didn't do it before. I didn't want to because I didn't know how to express myself to anybody without getting put down and talk about. When I feel like I have somebody that I can call on or I can count on to talk to and be there as a support system, it turns out that it's not there. But when that person need me, I'm all ears. But when I need that person, or I can't do it, I don't have the time, or they totally ignore like I don't exist no more. So it's kind of hard to know how would you know who to talk to and when to pick that person to talk to when you don't feel like you're overwhelm them with you, or you being their problem. How do you know that?
You know, a lot of times it starts with those community resources, and sometimes you are the person who's listening, but then through that community bond, then you build the people who then will listen to you. And in situations like this, there are so many people that are here and standing by in church communities and other communities. And, you know, as a mom, you've been through this, and then you're watching your own children go through this, and you have to be their rock, and you're asking, who's my rock? And they too can be your rock. You know, children are amazing. And sometimes as parents, as moms, we try to protect our children from what we're going through. There's nothing to say that they can't in turn be your rock as well. And you lift each other up. And you empower them too.
Thank you so much for sharing your story today. It takes bravery to do that. You're saying that everybody else that you have trusted is, I would think, people that you know. How about trying the resources? They don't know you. You don't know them. That's why Robin was saying that therapy is good, because at least they don't know you, you don't know them, so you'll be more safe to talk about what's going on with you with them than the people that you know. So now I think you should look about trying the resources. If you do have a trusted church community, maybe some of those leaders will be able to help you. I'm not saying it's always going to happen, but you can find trusted people. But the resources would be a good one.
So yes, definitely the resources. What a lot of my patients have taught me, I don't have Facebook, but they have Facebook, and there's groups on Facebook if you have social media as well, and they have joined groups for similar situations like that. Like, gosh, I'm always showing up for others who can show up with me, and they've built a community. And if you are engaged in therapy, and there are groups that are offered as well too, there are groups as well for within the mental health aspect too. Like I know with Kaiser, we have different groups. Like I facilitate the grief group at Kaiser, and I've done anger management before. But outside too, you can look like your church community, because sometimes there's women group, and find those people in there, because it is hard when you're always there for everybody, and it's like, yeah, who shows up for me? I feel like this alone. And I know in my group, even though it's a different type of group, it's a similarity, right? But so many of mine that I see, they'll be like, I found the best group on Facebook. And I'm like, really, Facebook? And they've built a connection. So I would say if anybody's on social media, that has been a positive. I've never heard anything negative, because there can be a lot associated, negative when it comes to social media. But definitely look in your community, look at the resources that are in the pamphlets that have been provided to you all. And when you find your people, that's your village. Definitely, definitely being aware too. I always say a rule of thumb is, when sharing, asking the person too, are you at capacity? And recognizing if you're at capacity. If you already feel like you're full and you're running over, then it's okay to be assertive and effectively communicate. Look, today is not a good day. If somebody's calling your phone and you just know, mentally I'm exhausted, I'm drained. You don't have to be readily available unless it's an emergency, and just letting people. Sometimes it's hard for us to say no and be assertive because we might be people pleasers, or that's just our characteristic. That's my characteristic sometimes. And then I'm like, I fault myself, like, Robin, why did you pick up that phone? It's okay to protect your peace. Remember, I said earlier, peace of mind is the best mind. So show up to those who show up for you. And if nobody shows up, find your circle. Write it down to journal. Whatever you're feeling, write your thoughts down. And if you're a spiritual person, give it to the man above.
So something that is coming to my mind is healthcare. There's an assumption here that everyone has healthcare. And in the instances that people do not have healthcare, how are we making resources available? Now, I see a lot of resources on these papers, but we are even assuming that people have telephones to make those calls. There are members of our community that really are struggling. So, something is popping in my head, and I don't know what the possibility of it is, but how about also reaching even more into the community, reaching into certain, and Sheriff over there, our chief of police over there, I'm sure given the statistics that come into where the areas are that may be hot pockets or things of that sort. And I'm not saying sending law enforcement into those areas, but sending mental health resources into those areas. What about thinking outside of the box? Like, this is a great panel. My sister is here, so it's even greater. I love you all for being here. But what about taking this into the community? What about knocking on some doors and say, hey, I have a 30-minute slot. I would like to talk to you. Anything you say to me is safe. And then maybe after that one time, the next time you can reach us, here where you can come to this place. There are buses going into those places that people have access to them. So we talk about our own people, and by the way, we are the global majority. We are not minorities. Just to kind of point that out there, we have even been conditioned to think we are minorities. We are not. But just thinking about how are we getting those resources into our community? Everybody does not have a car. Buses do not go into so many places. We need to change this algorithm or this outlook. We have to come about it differently to reach vulnerable members of our community. Thank you.
So that was very good information. So I'll say that within the police department, we do have a community outreach section. So that goes beyond just handling police calls. That goes into the resources, the needs of the community, where they go and they bring people in, or we'll meet them where they are. And that's the main thing. A lot of people, as you stated, won't come into the police station until that trust is built. Once that trust is connected and built, then the barriers come down, because that's the society that we're living in now, and we are breaking that stigma apart, especially in this town. So anyone that reaches out to us, we are very connected with our schools, our faith-based community here, our business owners. So we try to be very resourceful in the town of Bladensburg with our mayor and council. So we try to bring the resources there. We have a database that we have clinicians, that we have, plumbers. Anything that the community may need, we try to upload that, and we find partnerships within the community and sometimes outside of the community. But we try to get those resources, especially those peer support groups that, I think will be very beneficial for the young lady there if she found herself in that situation, knowing that everything doesn't have a dollar amount associated with it. So we try to be resourceful in the community. I would definitely encourage you that if you want to talk to me afterwards, if you're from the community here, we will help. Even if you're not, we can probably help point you to the right direction. So we're here to help on all levels.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chief. Just want to piggyback to the information that was shared. Yes, thinking outside of the box. How about we go in? Because many people are in this, they're already in a crisis. So going for help, they want to do it, but I think it's such a great suggestion in going into the community. Have resources like whatever they use, transportation voucher, if they need to get on a bus, this is where you can go for help because they might not have access to a car. And I think we're thinking in line many of times those that can come for help. But many survivors or others that are in this situation, they need help, but they don't have the energy. Mentally, they're exhausted. They're traumatized. And so looking at how can we help to break this cycle, there's lots of discussion, but I think that's a great idea in getting out there into the community. So the presence of the community, law enforcement, others that say we care, and I want to just say thank you to Kalisha, the council member and the mayor and everyone in this town to put together a forum in this platform where members of the community can share. And I think the ideas that were given here with resources that are available is going to give us a lot more information in how we can do this collectively as a community. So thank you for sharing that. And I want to just say this finally. I did mention a little bit, if you're listening live or know someone, and this might have been something that's been in the generation in your culture, you've grown up seeing this as okay. You're probably in a place right now where no one is seeing you. You're not able to come to a microphone. You don't have the energy because it might be guilt as an abuser. Just know that you matter as well. I want you to break that cycle. And the first step in breaking that cycle is acknowledging that there is a problem. The problem continues when there is denial. So even for those, if anyone know anyone or if someone is listening, that you fit the description, we're not here to condemn, we want to build a community. So if you're in this community, you know someone, if it might be a dad, it might be a stranger, know that help is available. So it's for the person that's going through, and perhaps that abuser might have been a victim of abuse that was not treated. So we want everyone to come and to get help so the cycle can break. Thank you.
So, thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your stories. Yes. And it starts here. This isn't the beginning nor the end. This is an ongoing conversation. And just by the virtue of you showing up today, it shares how important this is. And we together are the ones that are going to be able to help each other out of this. Yes. Any last minute words, or we're going to close? We just really appreciate everyone's just time and energy. And make sure you take a moment when you step away from this just to take a deep breath. This is a heavy, heavy, heavy topic. It is an important topic, and you are not alone. Thank you, everyone.
And before you leave, we do have flu shots available today. So we have health personnel on site. So if you'd like to get your flu vaccine and you haven't received that, please don't leave. We have it available. Kalisha?
And before we leave, is there a time limit they're going to be out here? Those watching on live stream may have an opportunity to show up.
Thank you, Chief Collington. Again, thank you everyone for coming out this afternoon just to participate in this great event. The council, Mayor and Council, we do appreciate you. We appreciate those who are online as well. Thank you, Dr. Savvy and your team from Kaiser. It couldn't have done without you guys, and we really appreciate it. Thank you so, so much. And I know Mayor James is not here, but she also will be happy. Thank you. Thank you, Chief, for taking the time, as always, out of your busy schedule to be with us. Again, we have flu shots on the outside. If you need flu shot, go on the outside. And for those who are online, the Kaiser team will be heading down to the Bladensburg waterfall to distribute flu shots as well. Thank you, and have a great day. How can I forget? Thank you, Ray, for such a great job, the backdrop. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to all of you from Kaiser and NIH. I appreciate you. Thank you again, everyone, for coming out.